You know, there's this saying that comics are meant to be read, and I've always disagreed with that saying. Yeah, they are meant to be read, but they're meant for other things as well. They're meant to be collected. They're meant to be rolled up, put in your back pocket, let your friend read it during lunch. They're meant to be bought, sold, and traded. So I always felt like that was a little bit misleading. It was a little bit of an elitist take on comic books because there are so many aspects of comics in this hobby which you can enjoy. Now, I always poll the Facebook group and I ask them questions and we'll share the results here. But this time I thought I would kick it to the YouTube community section and I put up a poll asking if you consider yourself to be more of a reader, a collector, someone who buys and sells, or a combination of some of those or all of those. With me, I definitely fit into all three categories. I would say I'm a collector first. Ever since I was a kid, man, really started with those trading cards. The collector bug just got me, wanting to complete a set, wanting to complete a run. But I was so interested in the characters that I wanted to know more. I wanted to read the source material, so I got into reading comic books. And even to this day, I'm a huge collector of omnibus and collected editions, but I still like to read them. I still like to read new comic books and stuff. So I consider myself those two, but I'm also down to sell, especially if it's something that I've gotten over it already, or I want to get the next thing and I want to fund it, make the hobby fund itself. So I will become a seller as well. So I definitely fit into all three of those categories. Probably collector, man, and then being a reader or a buyer or seller is probably tied for me. But I know there's some people out there, and I've already seen some of these comments, who have never sold any part of their collection in 40 years or however long they've been collecting. So I'm interested to see your guys' comments. Let's take a look at the results. Make sure you like the video. If you're digging the content, it's not that hard. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this stuff, and hit the notification bell so you know when I release videos. So here's the poll. So we got about 2,000 votes. 44% of you guys consider yourselves just readers. 23% are collectors. I love the honesty, man. Don't let people shame you into saying just being a collector is bad. Only 1%, though, would consider themselves just to be a retailer. So maybe there's a shop owner or something that, or an eBay store that voted on this. 32% say they're a combination of two or three. So let's take a look at the results. There's only 46 comments. So the young doctor, reader and collector, boom, with you. Kevin Connor says, I'll browse some of them, but don't really read much of the text, so more of a collector. Tanner Heslett, big in our Facebook group as well, he says, I'm in the hobby to read, but I also get a huge satisfaction from collecting. I also sell when the price is right, but all that money goes right back into the comic or statue hobby. I'm with you. MGM, what is that? MG Mateki. I try to be a reader, but my pile of shame is growing quicker than I'm able to sit down and enjoy them. Same here, man. Like, I love to read the Omnis. I 1,000,000% buy more or receive more Omnis than I'm able to read. But I've always looked at it like they're always going to be there. I don't have to read them all, power read them right now. Michael Stockdale says a combination of 1 and 2, so reader, collector. Hydrus, reader first. Secondly, a collector. Make room for Doom says collector, and when a chance to upgrade arises, consider my ass a dirty flipper. Making the hobby fund itself. There's a right way to do that. These are all great comments, only came across a troll or two. That's pretty rare these days. There's always a few out there. Reader and collector, occasional seller. Red-handed says more of 1 and 2, more of a reader, collector. JC's Geek Emporium says, definitely a reader more than a collector. I love reading / seeing the art, characters, and stories of those characters. You know, another good example of this, I think I was talking with, maybe was it, I don't know if it was Eris, but they were talking about Sal from Comic Pop on how they're not really collectors at all. They're like primarily readers. So they only have like stuff on the shelves that they plan to read, but no interest in collecting whatsoever. But then you have someone like myself, who I love having the stuff on the shelf, seeing those beautiful spines, having access to all the great stories at my fingertips. So there's different types of collectors for sure. James Sunderland says, I consider myself a combination of all, and it was actually you that taught me it's okay to sell things and part with collections in order to keep your hobby fresh and thriving. Yeah, that's from the What Do You Do for a Living video. I mean, that's just my take on it. There's people that disagree, but I'm glad that it's something that made you think and it works for you and you find enjoyment in that. Not to say that my opinion is the right opinion. That's just the way my mind works. Clint Bird says collector and reader 1 and 2. 1 and 2 because I read and seal. Okay. Another 1 and 2. I'm a reader who keeps the comics after reading. Hate to break it to you, you are a collector. But a reader first. All right. This video is brought to you by Ninja Funk Bad Music #1. Following the battle at Ninja Funk Dojo and the capture of BB, Bad Music retreats to their headquarters at the Nexus. With the love of Laser Wolf's life as irresistible bait, there's no doubt in Queen Bad's mind that her nemesis will come knocking and she's ready for him. Will Laser Wolf, JPG McFly, and Wolfgang see the trap for what it is or run headlong into disaster? Find out in Ninja Funk Bad Music #1 in stores April 17th. The Black Phantom HD says, I'm more of a collector now. When I used to read, everything was so confusing, having to buy multiple series for one storyline, series getting canceled, bad writers, etc. Now I just collect old key issues and play video games, watch the shows and movies. Sometimes I might read an indie series if it looks good. I picked up Beneath the Trees and World Tree. Those have been solid, but I mostly just collect. Yo, I love the honesty there. Yeah, and you know what? Having to buy multiple series for one storyline is what threw me off as a kid, because that was during the time, and you guys have heard me say this before, when Spider-Man had like multiple series out, whether it was Web of Spider-Man, Adjectiveless Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Untold Tale, all these different Spider-Man, and you would have like, I think Maximum Carnage is a good example of a story that was told throughout all of those ongoing series. You could blame Jack Kirby for that because that's really what the Fourth World was, but as a kid it was hard to keep up with, but that's why I love the omnibus format now. They'll collect all that stuff in chronological order for you, so there you go. Beneath the Trees was good. You know, I never read World Tree, as good of things I've heard about it. I never got a chance to pick it up. Infamy or Death says reader/collector, because he also collects statues too. So that's the thing. We could read the material, but be collectors of figures or statues or hot toys or whatever. Chris Chalet says, I could never think of selling off my books. Also, I'm very possessive about them. Lost a lot of comics during my childhood days back in the 80s and 90s. Friends, cousins used to take and never return them. So it's a trauma thing for you. Okay, it makes sense. Absolute is the best way to collect this. Empty your wallet, bitches. Yeah, absolutes are an omnibus. To me, that's my go-to format. You guys know. JD says 1 and 2. Another reader and collector, mostly reader. Yo, I like seeing that there's so many readers that are in interacting with the channel. What about us 1 and 2 combo guys? Yeah, Frankie, that's what I gave the option for, man. Combination of 1, 2, or all. A reader collector combo of 1 and 2. Not a big collection, but I got a few good ones. Yo, Frank Miller in the house. Combo of 3, I suppose. I used to collect heavy, but when my son didn't show much interest in comic books, I decided to sell most of them so he wouldn't get burned after I died. My man is thinking long term. Nothing wrong with that. User, just a username. Sometimes your kids will have different interests than what you intended. There are always people that will want them. Yo, my pops was huge into fishing. I hated fishing, man. We never caught a fish ever. We would go out on boats. We would fish on the lake. I never recall catching a damn fish. And I hate fishing to this day. Late Start Comics says reader, collector, and YouTube sharer of comic awesomeness. There we go. I'm a collector because I'm a reader first, and I resell the stuff I didn't like. I don't speculate. Got you. Rob D says reader. I buy whatever I think I'll like. I'd like to start collecting Superman comics, not the original issues, but that depends on if DC is going to give us more Superman DC Finest collections and Superman the Triangle Era 2 and 3 and so on. Yeah, they're doing that omnibus for volume 1. I've never heard of the Triangle Era, so I'm interested to see what that's all about. They're doing that Jeff Johns, Gary Frank Absolute Edition, so I'm excited for that. Superman has always been like severely underrepresented when it came to omnis and absolutes. There's quite a few of them out there now though. KFXG says, I'm a collector who buys them simply to read them. I do take care of them with bags, boards, boxes, etc. because I care about my possessions. I rarely sell off stuff from my collection, so 1 and 2 combined. I'm into it and utilize them as they were intended, not someone who is only there because I see a $sign. Yeah, I hear you. Reader/collector until I run out of space, then I become a seller. You know, that's kind of what I do. Like, I've done a couple of big purges in my collection just since I've been on YouTube for 6 years. I feel like when it gets too big and the walls are closing in and I feel like uneasy that I have so much money in these collectibles, then I start getting the itch to sell them all and then build it back up. And like I always said, it's like this breathing, growing thing. That's what makes it fun for me, at least. Eternal Knights Collectible says, I read and collect what I like, but I will turn around and sell what I don't like or don't really want to put into the personal collection. I think that's the way to go, man. Because just because you don't like it, Doesn't mean that there's somebody else out there who doesn't want it or wants to give it a try. And then boom, like I said, you get the funds, you could turn it into something else. Marvel art of David Finch, please. Gotcha. Drew Stevens says, I read and collect. I tried to buy and sell stuff for about a week and I stopped because that side of the hobby just isn't fun for me. But I understand why others love that part and I get why it's necessary for the comic book industry as a whole. It's just not for me. Yo, it's not for me either, man. I spend a lot of time on Whatnot buying inventory in order to sell it and losing money and having to ship. Yo, I'm completely done with that shit, man. I'm back to just buying stuff that I like, selling stuff that I no longer want. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe it doesn't fit in the collection anymore. Maybe I'm just down to part with it. Maybe I'm going to upgrade to some other version of that. But yeah, buying stuff with the intention to sell it, I'm done. Yo, I'm so done with that. Andrew Gonzalez says, yeah, I read and collect. I don't collect/read books that are not at least enjoyable. I'm collecting faster than reading, but I'll eventually read it all. That's what they all say. Reader collector, never sold any. Anthony Crane says combo of reader collector. So does Patrick. I think I've read 60% of my collection. Good job, man. That's a big percentage. Reader, I have not sold one of the 80,000 books I've been collecting since 6 and I'm 50 now. I think this might have been one of the comments that I glanced at. That's cool, man. Like, see, the thing was with me as a kid, like, I couldn't afford it. Like, I would sell things in order to buy the next thing I wanted. I would do it with video games and consoles and whatever I was done with, I would sell it in order to buy the new thing. My parents bought stuff for me too, though, but not enough to scratch the itch that I had as a collector. All three of them, I'm with you. And toys and 8764 says reader and collector. Yo, thank you guys so much for commenting and voting on this. I thought it was interesting. It's just a little kind of idea that I had. So cool to see where you guys are at. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are watching this video. What category do you fall under? Are you more of a reader, more of a collector? Are you really in it just as a retailer, which is fine? Or are you a combination of some or all of those things? Drop me a comment, leave a like on the video, and thanks for watching. Stay minty fresh, y'all. Peace.